Metal Month at Toontrack.com. I'm Sean from Shootie School, and this is a Toontrack sponsored video. This video can be watched on its own, but it's the third in this Metal Month series in which we already created a metal song demo. If you wish, check out the first two episodes. The links are below in the description. Today, we take the beats we chose and produce them and start making the EZdrummer MIDI sound like our own, a very important process. Let's get started. So if you remember, I started the song with some pickup notes, and I like those, so I don't think I'm going to change them. Here's what they sound like. It's these hits right here. It's great. So let's just move on to the intro. And the intro is just these toms playing a backbeat where the snare usually plays in the groove, except it's just two toms, bloom, bloom. And it gets monotonous because it's just this main riff. We're trying to introduce the main melody to the audience, and these toms are just doing the backbeat. I like that, but there's no accents. You know, if we look on measure 9, which is really where the band enters, it should be a big hit on the downbeat. Downbeat's a great term to remember. Downbeat means you're playing on the 1 of a measure or a bar. And often, not all the times, that's where people like to hit hard. In this case, the whole band's coming down on that downbeat, so let's join them with EZdrummer. If I open up the intro and edit playstyle, we could just enable opening hit. Opening hit, that's the purpose of it. It adds an instrument of choice to a downbeat. In this case, I want many instruments on that downbeat, so I'm just going to color them in with the pencil tool up here. You can hit 2 on your keyboard to select it faster if you want. I'm going to color in the kick drum. And I'm going to color in 2 cymbals. I'm going to choose cymbal 3 and 4. I already auditioned them earlier. I know what cymbals I want, but you can just click on them here before you color your notes in and get a hint on what they sound like before you plug in the notes. It's great. Now let's hear this downbeat. Yeah. Now, these toms go on for a while, so let's listen here. Yeah, let's do another downbeat here. And another one right here on 13 and on 15. Because whether the audience or the listener realizes it or not, you know, I want them to subliminally know that the band is coming. So let's let that band keep chiming in a little bit here and there. It's like a horse waiting for the racing gate to open. You know, it starts getting riled up. Like, that's kind of like, you know, what I'm imagining. It's kind of whatever. I'm using my imagination. So what did I say? 13 and 15? So I think this is going to work. Here's the band keeping on chiming in, except they chime in even a little quicker now. Yeah, so that works. The band keeps hitting in. Those toms feel a little static to me. And the guitar performance is a little loose. I recorded it just to a straight metronome. You know, I didn't record it to this beat. So when I re-record the guitars, probably before the next episode, you'll hear them connect better. They're just demos. But these toms, they're a little stiff and stale. Let's zoom in and look at them. I'm holding Control and using my mouse wheel. On Mac, it's Command plus to zoom in, minus to zoom out. So these toms are right next to each other. They're not exactly right on the grid, so they're a little bit humanized, but they are performing at the exact same time regardless where they are on the grid. So I could unsnap, and I could just grab this and move this to the left or right, and this is like an adjustment down to milliseconds, and this humanized it a little bit. And you could do this throughout, work your way horizontally forward. I'm going to hit undo. Or the trick is this. Make sure you listen to this closely before you sign off on it, because it's not going to work all the time. I bet it'll work this time. This is an easy example. I have all the backbeat toms in the entire intro selected. I'll go to the timing menu, and I'll select randomize and just glue your face to the screen, and you'll see that these dots will randomly go left or right. Yeah. This one in front of us only happened a little, but look at this guy over here. Different directions, a little more dramatic. Now let's hear this intro, and hopefully those toms won't feel so stale and static. They might even sound a little bit bigger, and they'll sound a little bit more human. You can tell right away. Oh yeah, this almost sounds like a flam here. It sounds real now. So Sign off with your ears before you make moves like that. And before we end the intro, you know, the intro is going into the pre-verse over here. So I want to start playback on 16 in my DAW. I don't have a marker there, so I'll just type that right into my DAW's navigation, 16. Now let's hear how this transitions from the intro to the pre-verse. There's no hint. There's no prelude like, hey, we're changing now. And I might want to put like an old school Dave Lombardo tom fill from like Seasons in the Abyss in there, but I'll decide that later. Let's at least get a single kick hit, which is a great trick, and we'll put it on the 8th note before this section. So if I switch my resolution to 8th notes, I'll see them better. This is a great trick. I use it all the time. Pencil tool and just color in the last 8th note before the pre-verse. And it's not snapping to this line, so you got to be careful or make sure snap's enabled. And it's not going to bullseye the grid perfectly because Humanize is on by default, so have no fear and click here. Now let's hear just this simple kick drum will help subliminally line up that next section of the song for the listener. It's perfect. It sounds a little choppy because my guitars are punched in there, which is something to be fixed. They're just demoed guitars. So let's move on to the pre-verse, which potentially is also the chorus. So the pre-verse, it's a real basic, tough riff. The strings are syncopating heavily at certain moments, and I want the kick drum of the drummer to make sure they're playing with the strings. So I'm going to watch this kick drum lane up here, the dots on the top row here, and I'm going to look at that visually, and I'm going to use my ears with the strings and make sure everyone's lining up and play together. Let's check it out. So the problem here, same problem is here. And starting at measure 21, the riff repeats, so let's just work up to measure 21. So I noticed there was a problem here. Now, if you can't eyeball it right out of the gate and say, all right, a kick drum belongs right here, at least understand the rough area you need to add a hit to, and then you can just do trial and error, add a kick drum here, listen to it, is it on, is it off, take it away, add it somewhere else, you know, you can do trial and error. I know the kick drum I need is here, all the strings are hitting there. But what's interesting is right next to it on the downbeat of measure 18, which is beat 1, let's remember that, the strings are not playing on the downbeat. And I know I was just preaching to you, we should all hit hard on the downbeat most of the time. Well, I think this is an exception. So let me take away this downbeat kick drum. Now let's listen to this part and see if it really shakes hands with the strings. I think it's way heavier. That's my opinion though. We can disagree. It's okay. But what's interesting about removing the downbeat, this kick is perfect. It's hitting with the strings. What's interesting about removing this downbeat is look at all the space there is between this kick drum and this snare drum. That amount of space, to me, metaphorically, you don't have to agree, that space brings suspense. And when you introduce suspense like that, this next snare drum really seems heavier than it normally would be if there was a kick on the downbeat. So listen to this space and then tell me if you have a different feeling on this snare drum. Is it heavier? To me it is, and it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to agree, but as you come up with your own tricks or borrow this trick, try to come up with feelings and metaphors like that and make them more memorable. And then you can repeat them quickly because you remember what they feel like, you know? So I'm going to repeat this edit throughout the rest of these parts, like this, throughout the rest of this part, on my own time. But what else I'm noticing here is the backbeat of the snare, which is on beat 2 and beat 4, the snare right here and the snare right here. It's solid white, meaning it's being hit heavily, heavy dynamics. That's good. But these little gray snares, those are ghost notes. They're just instead of ka. I want this to be basic and strong. I don't want ghost notes. So I'm going to remove those, and I could just grab my pencil tool, mouse over notes, and click on them, and they'll go away. Or I could open up Edit Playstyle, select the snare, select ghost notes, and simply turn the amount knob down. Look, all the ghost notes went away, and it's working. It's pretty awesome. Now let's just listen to the end from measure 24. Let's hear a little bit of the pre-verse into the verse and see how it transitions into the verse. And since I don't have a marker on 24, I'll just type it directly into my DAW and I'll hit play. I don't like that fill, but it is doing its job. It lets the listener know we're transitioning onto another section. So I'll probably redo the fill there in the next fills episode. So let's move on to the verse. We're working on the verse down here. We have closed hi-hats. I think that's good because the strings, they're palm muted, they're lower dynamic. I think it's good. Moving over to open hi-hats, which gets more weight on the head bob. Check out this fill as it goes into the next section. The next section is double time. I like this fill. This fill works good with the guitar turnaround, but I don't think that fill works good to line up the next section. So what can I do? That guitar turnaround also happens on measure 28. So I want to copy this fill from measure 32 and paste it over there. I place my cursor on 32, and if you look in the song track, the cursor followed, and it is also on measure 32. So we know that's where we want to splice. So I'll grab the scissors. You can hit 3 on your keyboard to grab the scissors faster. I'll cut it. This is the fill. I'll right click. I'll copy it. You can see the part that's highlighted right here, confirming. Now place the cursor where I want to paste it. That guitar turnaround's on measure 28. So let's right click, paste at playhead, all. Let's confirm it's in the right spot. That fill works great. The kicks and the cymbals, that was luck. So the verse is done. I'm going to select the first groove in the verse, hold shift, select the last groove. Now I have the entire verse selected. I'll right click, I'll copy. Now I want to paste it onto the next verse so I don't have to repeat my work. I'll put my playhead on measure 49, which is verse 2. Right click, paste at playhead. And that is verse 2 in my DAW. I'll select the marker. So now we're working on verse 2. Now I want open hi-hats right away. As the song progresses linear through time, I want it to keep building, building, building. So now I want open hi-hats right away. Let's open up the hi-hat articulation menu. Here's all those closed hi-hats. It takes a lot of magic to make closed hi-hat grooves feel really good. I'm going to get rid of that though. We already experienced that in verse 1. What I want is the open hi-hats from the second part of the verse. I'll select them with a marquee. I'll hold Control, it's Option on Mac, and drag them over. Now we have open hi-hats throughout. Better than that, let's keep building. The second half, let's make them more open. Oh yeah, they sustain more now. It's a great trick. So now I'm going to grab verse 2, select it, shift, select, right click, copy. And now let's go to the last verse in the song, right here. Measure 97, right click, paste at playhead. And let's just recycle that trick again. Let's go to measure 97. Now we're working on the third verse, and let's just grab all of these and bring them down yet another open hi-hat articulation. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's super open now. Super weight on the head bob. I'm not sure if I want to do it, but here's another trick right here. I'll just select these hi-hats here. I'll hold Control Option on Mac. And I'll do 16th notes. I'll pop open velocity. Look, the in-between hits are still highlighted. Bring down the velocity a little. Oh yeah. I don't know if I'll keep this, but it's just a trick. That might actually sound better on a lower articulation open edge 3. Let's hear that. I'm going to put my cursor on 1 and 1, shift space bar so I exclude DAW playback so we can hurry up. Yeah. I'm going to go over the pre-chorus and the chorus a bit faster. We'll just do a before and after real quick so we have more time to spend on the bridge. In the original pre-chorus that I pulled, take a look at this kick drum pattern. It just repeats over and over again. And look at how few cymbal accents there are. I also pulled out a couple ghost notes on the snare. So here's before. And here's after. Look at those cymbal hits. Look at this extra long kick drum roll at the end that helps the loop of the guitar riff. Fantastic, in my opinion, of course. On the chorus is the same as that pre-chorus. It had that more boxy feel, and we removed the downbeat kick drum and we moved it over an eighth note. Also, take a look, there's only so few cymbal accents. So in the new chorus, we made the same changes that we made in the pre-verse, except I made all these extra cymbal hits. Also take note that this crash 3, it's doing eighth notes. It's going ba 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 ba. And I kind of take those eighth notes away here and here to help accent these extra cymbal hits. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Let's move on to the bridge. The bridge section has 3 parts. The bridge intro has a ringing out guitar, a 16th note bass riff, and the toms drum groove that we got from Bandmate. I don't like that toms groove here. The next bridge section, the guitar introduces its riff. That's where I like the tom riff, and it's already there. It's pretty fun. I grew up on the East Coast US, listened to 90s hardcore like Biohazard and Hatebreed, so it's fun stuff. And then to resolve this, the last part of the bridge, it opens up with a stompy backbeat, and the riff opens up a little bit. I think that's a great finale in my opinion. But let's look at the bridge intro. I don't want that, but I want something similar to it. So I'm going to launch this bridge intro into Edit Play Style. I'm going to remove the hi-hat, right-click, remove MIDI. Let's listen. This tom is kind of doing a power hand eighth note, maybe something a little more than that, but basically. But I want 16th note toms to match that bass riff. So I'll just click on a tom and use the amount knob. Let's add some toms. Let's add some second floor tom. Add a little bit of high tom. Actually, I don't want to break it anymore. That works right there. There's a lot of 16th notes in there that are connecting with the bass. I'm actually quite happy with that. That's pretty cool. So I don't know if you'll have as much luck as I did with Edit Play Style, but I cranked it up, turned a couple of mount knobs, and all of a sudden the toms are playing with the bass. It's pretty fantastic. At the end of this tom intro, the band connects together for accents. They pulse on a quarter note before the next section. They go blow, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's quarter note accents. Let's do some pre-roll. Listen to the strings. Let's just get the drums to connect on that before we move on. I'll grab my arrow tool, which is already selected. Let's get rid of this. And if you know the quarter notes and you want to draw stuff in easier, I'll switch my resolution to quarter notes. I'll just draw on the kicks. Pencil tool, hit 2 on your keyboard. And then I want cymbals. There's already a floor tom here. Let's remove that so the drummer's arm frees up. And then I want the cymbals to alternate, so I'll just shift select these so they're both selected at the same time, move them up. Totally works. Now the next tom riff, I don't want to mess with it, except the drummer does not have 3 hands, so I'm going to remove the hi-hat. And now let's take a look at that end stomp beat right here. I want this as stompy as stomp can be. Very easy. I just want a backbeat. I can see ghost notes in here. I can see extra kick drums. So I'm just shift selecting all the kick drums that are not on beats 1 or beat 3. Delete. And all those snares are ghost notes, so we know how to do that. I'll launch an edit play style, select the snare, select ghost notes, and just drop it down to nothing. Yeah. And lastly, I don't want eighth notes on the cymbal. Ga, 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 ga. I want ga, ga, hard, hard, hard. Check out this trick. Usually, when a power hand counts eighth notes on the hi-hat, on the hi-hat or ride or in toms or whatever, usually the downbeat in every quarter note's really hard and the in-between eighth notes are softer. So if I select this crash 3, look at all these lower velocity hits. I could painstakingly select all of them, holding shift down. I don't want to do that. I'll drag a marquee just in the velocity dynamics. Look, I left all the heavy hits unselected and selected all the lower ones. Delete. There's a little random guy right here. Now let's hear this riff. Is it stompier? I love the simplicity. I mean, just let your audience headbang for gosh sakes. Now that our demo's graduating to more of a production, I'm going to re-record my guitars so they're not draft quality anymore. I'll tweak the mix a little bit so I can hear everything more pristinely so I can make better calls. And before we go to the next episode, I want to show you one little trick. If you remember in Metal Month episode 1 and 2, we used EZKeys to help us identify what scale or mode we're playing in. Then we used it to help us write the entire song. Well, I want to push that a little further. We can use EZKeys to help us write melodies, harmonies, licks, bass fills, or even guitar solos. As a non-career lead guitarist, if I'm playing in a scale or a mode that I'm not used to, it could take me half a day just to figure out patterns to work in. Never mind, I don't have the dexterity that a career lead guitarist has, so it could take me anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 days to get it under my fingers well enough so I could perform it. So here in EZKeys, we know what scale or mode we're in because we figured that out in episode 1. And also in episode 1, I just kind of filled in the dots and created melodies off the top of my head, and you could just do that until it sounds good. Here I have the bridge section of our song. I don't plan on putting solos and melodies throughout this song, but I'll use it as an example. And I just have synthwave and EZKeys loaded up. You could just use a piano sound or something from electronic pop, whatever you have. The idea is you just got to use your imagination a little bit and imagine this is your guitar. And if you can do that, man, you could save hours or days of time working this way. I don't think I spent more than 60 seconds on that. I can just make adjustments until I like it, or I can start from scratch and just start drawing all over again. Using all the tools in EZKeys to help me write melodies before I pick up my guitar and learn them has saved me a ton of time, and EZKeys hasn't even been out for a year yet. This is Sean from Shootie School. I have 2 social groups on Facebook and Discord for like minds and basic support. Check out ShootieSchool.com for more content and free videos. The links to all this, plus the Toontrack software we used in this video, are down below. Come back for next week's Metal Month episode where we discuss using fills, and I'll even teach you on how to make your first fill in the grid editor. Rock on.